concept of auto-enrolment. So obviously also auto-enrolment is a new massive scheme that's obviously starting, but it's really getting pushed out within the whole of the UK in the next couple of years. We really want to make sure that every young person is aware of what it is and how it works. So obviously, by the time it's fully rolled out, every young person from when they're, well, any person when they're 22 and upwards will be auto-enrolled into a pension. So actually, obviously that's a very big deal. So we want to kind of just help young people explain, well, actually, how does that work and what does that mean? So I guess the first thing, we've got the pay slip up there. We're saying, okay, well, look, the kind of be all end all of this is that we've mentioned national insurance. We're going to come to maybe kind of government expenditure later on. But actually, some people decide to choose to save for their own private pension, and the government are going to automatically enrol you into one of those to kind of help you with your long-term savings plans. So what we then have on a PowerPoint is a kind of an explanation, I guess, of how this works, which looks like this. So this is a couple of slides around private pensions. So what it does is it highlights how private pensions works. So it suggests, right, if out of your payslip, if you put in £100 a month, you then have £20 that comes in from the taxman in terms of its tax efficiency. You get a little bit extra, and then your employer contributes as well. Okay, so out of your £100, you've actually got £200, and so that £200 is then going into your pension pot. So we're highlighting that, and then we can kind of go through it again a second time and watch the pension pot grow. There we go, so it goes to £200, the £200 goes into the pension pot grows, and then obviously you can then start to see over time that your pension will grow as you continue to put money into it. So, at this stage, what we're wanting to do, the main kind of focus of the information we're providing at pensions at this stage. One is about auto-enrolment, as I say. The second is to explain the difference between, obviously, a state pension and a private pension, make people who've got that really kind of clear in their minds. And then a third is the kind of explanation about how a pension works. Now, just to give you an indication at this stage, in section 2, we've put in a section around long-term savings plans, or savings options. And as one of those, I mean, pension is essentially a saving option. It's one that many people decide to take, but it is essentially an option. So, at this point, if you're doing either, if you're including section 2, if you're working with the same young people to do section 2, either on the same day or a later date, you can highlight to them, look, we're kind of going to discuss pensions in a bit more detail in section 2. If you are just going to do section 1 by itself, and you know for a fact that the young people aren't going to have the opportunity to do section 2, you can maybe feel about going into a little bit more detail about some of the pros and cons around pensions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second video around section 2, so maybe you can, at a later stage, you can watch that video as well and just think a little bit about the pros and cons, and if you have a few short moments to kind of bring that out, you can do that at this stage, but only really if they're not going to get the chance to do section 2. So, we've done kind of, pensions, auto-enrolments. We're then kind of going back to what we've done previously in terms of explore other forms of tax. So we're kind of continuing down this road of things that are kind of coming out of your pay. So we talked about other types of deductions, other forms of tax. So we've still got the tax matching cards, but I guess probably what we're saying at this point is they only really need to be used if the group are slightly lower ability, in terms of actually we need kind of clarification. If you're fairly sure that they've got a good idea about what car tax is, what VAT is, you've already done income tax, national insurance, then you can essentially just bring them up on the slide, just very quickly clarify. Can anyone just make sure we know what this is, make sure we know what that is, really just kind of define them. Which kind of then brings us on to the final activity. So obviously we've had this government expenditure activity previously, and typically everyone has said it works very well. But actually what we wanted to do was to enhance it, essentially. And the way we've done that is to include government income as well as government expenditure. So what you'll find now on the PowerPoint is a second pie chart, and actually the government income pie chart will come first. So It looks extremely similar, obviously, to the government expenditure one, so it's a nice kind of colourful one that goes round. But essentially what we've got on here are then where the government gets their money from. So we've got business rates, VAT, corporation tax, excise duty, national insurance, council tax, income tax, other income, and borrowing. So we've got a whole different kind of range of places that the government get money from. So we can explore those a little bit more detail, just clarify a few thoughts people have got or questions people have got, and certainly highlighting this borrowing of 108 billion, and actually obviously that's huge amounts of money. Even link it back to the why do we do what we do at the beginning of the day and say, well, that's a significant amount of money here. What do you think about that? And having done that, we can then highlight the same slide that we had before in terms of the pie chart about where government spend that money. So you've kind of got those two, the income side, you've got the expenditure side. And so then with the activity that goes with that, we're bringing those two things together. So the new worksheet, which is printed on A3, but I've printed an A4 one just to hold up to the camera, looks like this, where we've got those two slides printed at the top, so you can see the young people have, they've seen it up on screen, but they can then really kind of look in the detail here. And then kind of underneath that, they've got the chance to essentially change both. So they get the chance to change the income if they want to. So they might want to increase the income, they might have the choice to increase tax bands or introduce a new form of tax and increase the amount of money that comes in, or they might decide to decrease it, or they could keep it the same. And then of course, as before, they've got the chance to change where the government spends their money. So hopefully our aim by extending this activity in this way is to not only kind of create kind of greater depth of learning in terms of where the government gets money from. Because previously we talked a little bit about VAT and that, but we kind of really want to go into a bit more detail so they really see the whole picture around that. So one was to kind of make sure that they see the whole picture in terms of income and expenditure. And I guess the other was then again another kind of maths related activity. If they're thinking, right, well, we're going to be cutting 27 billion from council tax, 5 billion from income tax, and we want to cut borrowing down by a third, and then we're going to increase pensions by 2% or welfare by 12 billion. Actually, there's some a few mathematical bits that they're going to have to work out if they want to really kind of get into the nuts and bolts around that. So that was the kind of aim of the activity there, was to kind of, as I say, enhance learning and get them to do a bit more kind of working out as well as the discussion. So there we go, government income expenditure, and essentially then the conclusion is relatively similar. So we're concluding A, what we've done in the workshop, B, the kind of link between you as an individual and how you pay money to tax, but how it kind of comes back to you in terms of the services you get. And then also, I guess, as a whole, in terms of hopefully what the workshop has achieved, in terms of making people feel a bit more comfortable and confident and knowledgeable, obviously, about what's going to happen in their lives around money and how that's going to change over time. So that's the kind of a brief overview of the changes we've done to Key Stage 4 Session 1. Please obviously go on and watch the section around Key Stage 4 Session 2 and the changes we've made there, and obviously how they link into this section, so you get a good kind of overview of that. Thanks very much.